So I have a very simple HTML, and this is static HTML. There's nothing, there is no JavaScript here. It's just HTML. I'm loading Angular. I'm loading to-do.js, which will be used for my application, but right now it doesn't do anything. And the rest is just a static template with already data in it. Now, what I want to do is turn this into an Angular application. And the way I do it, and notice that this HTML is served just with a static HTTP server, so there's nothing happening on the server side. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say that this is an ng app, and I give it some name, and then Angular follows MVC. Sorry? Well, I'm just talking to.
I think everybody else trying to hear as well.
Okay. Angular follows MVC. So we have a model, we have view, and we have controller. So we specify this chunk of DOM is going to be controlled by this particular controller. Now, if I go to to-do.js, you'll see that I'm creating a module, to-do app, which is what I referenced in my ng app. And within that module, I'm specifying a controller called app controller, and this is the constructor function for that controller. Now, the controller takes one argument, scope, which you can think of context that is shared between the controller and the template. So whatever is available in this context is going to be available in the template. And then in my template, I can do something like Okay, so I can use expressions. So I can use double curly, and I can say, take whatever the username is in the current context, pipe it through uppercase filter, and inline it in this place of document. So what I get is Igor's to-do list, because username is set to Igor in my controller. Does that make sense? So your model and the controller lives in the JavaScript. The template is just HTML, which is converted into DOM, and then Angular consumes the DOM and brings the two and makes it alive. So, and with the repeater, we have constructs like ng repeat, which allow you to do something like item in items, where items is an array. So in my controller, I'm defining, I have a model called items. It's an array containing two objects. Each object has a text property and done property. And I'm going to publish on the scope. So I mentioned that scope is the context. So I'm just going to say, within this context, under name items, this is going to be available. And then in my template, and I actually want to repeat the li, not ul. So I want to say repeat. I'll remove these guys. Repeat this li as many times as I have items in the items array. Preserve the current item in this variable so that I can bind to it. So now I can do item.text, and that doesn't work. Text items. It's twice. Oh, sorry. This is on a here. li. Okay. That's more readable. So, perfect. So what I'm saying is that I have this li that I want to repeat over. So this li becomes a template, and it's going to be cloned as many times as I have elements in the array. And then I can data bind to this stuff. So I can do also item.done. And now you see that the done is true here and false here, but the checkbox doesn't reflect that. So I need to actually data bind the input box. What I can do is ng model item.done. And now when I change the checkbox, it's going to update the model, which will update all the things that are bound to the same model. So this is just very quick introduction to Angular. There are many other pieces to Angular, like dependency injection. Dependency injection is how we structure the application and break it down into smaller components that can depend on each other. And the dependency injector will just resolve the dependencies between components and instantiate everything at the right time, which helps you in making your application more maintainable, as well as more testable. Because if the components are not instantiated by other components, if there is something else instantiating all these components and composing the entire application, you can easily override what a component looks like in the context of a test. So you can say that in this particular test, I'm not going to be calling server because I have a component that calls the server. You can just replace it with a fake component that has the same API but doesn't call the server, so that in your test you can easily pretend that the code is making a request, but it's not really. And we also provide all these mocks for you. So there are mocks for all these common services that are really hard to test with, so that you can just train them. In Ruby, you should be familiar with testing. So testing is a very big part of Angular. Mishko's going to talk today about directives, and directives is API that allows you to extend the HTML compiler. So I noticed that I mentioned that we have this ng-repeat, we have ng-model, we have many other things that we call directives. And this is something that was built on top of API that is available to you. So not only you can use our directives, you can build your own. And this is how we think that you can actually take small pieces of Angular and create components that are specific to your application and extend everything. Basically, everything in Angular is extensible. If it's a templating language or if it's all the services that we provide, everything has extension points so that you can extend things. And there is Dean. Where's Dean? Dean! That guy over there. So he's working on an Angular UI project, which aims to create components for Angular, so that if you need a date picker, you just go to Dean and Dean will give you a nice date picker. If he doesn't deliver on the promise, then you can beat him. So our goal is to keep the core of Angular very small, but make it extensible so that other people can build on top of Angular and add components that are usable in particular cases, but we don't want the Angular to be a beast with thousands and thousands of APIs. Okay. So I recommend that you go to our website. There are many examples on the website which you can check out, and there are some screencasts which explain how we build these examples. Our documentation is interesting. Many people say they love it. Many people say that it needs a lot of work. I think both are true. But there are many examples that you can learn from. We have really good tutorial. If you go to docs.angularjs.org/tutorial, you can go through building of an application, which will show you everything you need to know and how we test and how we run tests. There's Build with AngularJS, which is a gallery of applications that were already built. Many of them have a link to source code, so you can check out these applications. And that's